How's it going, everybody? I'm Steve Ninja, and tonight I want to show all the Blu-rays that I purchased in April. So I have 12 titles I want to show you tonight. These actually aren't ranked, but I do have numbers next to them so you can kind of keep track of them. So the first movie I actually bought at Half Price Books. This is only like $10. And I was looking online like the night before, and it was going for a lot more than that. But the movie is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This movie was directed by Milos Forman. This was an Oscar winner from 1975. It has Jack Nicholson, and actually it's the film debut from Brad Dourif. If you know Chucky, and that. So this movie definitely is kind of dark. It's funny until it kind of gets to the end, but I really love it though. So my next movie is actually also released in 1975. This one is actually a sequel to an Oscar winner, but this movie's directed by John Frankenheimer and is The French Connection 2. Gene Hackman is reprising his role as Popeye Doyle. This movie's really dark. Just like seems like a lot of movies in the 70s are really dark. And this one, it's got a scene in it, a sequence in it that you wouldn't believe, just like what Gene Hackman put himself through. But it's one of his best performances, even though he didn't win an Oscar for this, but he won an Oscar for the first one. But this is amazing though. It's not as good as The French Connection, but it's definitely a pretty good sequel. So this next movie was actually released in 1984, and it's directed by Joseph Ruben. And it's one I had not seen in a long time, but it's Dreamscape. This movie's starring Dennis Quaid. It has David Patrick Kelly, if you remember The Warriors, and he was in The Crow. He plays like the villain in this movie, one of the villains. It has Christopher Plummer. It's got Max von Sydow, Kate Capshaw. So this movie was actually released in the same year as A Nightmare on Elm Street, and there's actually the co-writer of this movie is Chuck Russell. And he went on to direct Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. So it's definitely a link there in those two movies, and it definitely deals with the same kind of themes. Next up, this movie was actually released in 1990. I've been collecting a lot of David Lynch movies, and this one's actually not on the Criterion collection, but it's Wild at Heart. This is starring Nicolas Cage. It has Laura Dern, has Willem Dafoe. This is a total blind buy, so I can't wait to watch this one. I've got quite a bit on my list I have to watch right now, but this one I'm really excited about. So these next four titles are actually ones I upgraded from DVD, and these are ones that I've actually gone through a lot of my DVDs, and there's some I've gotten rid of just because I feel like if I'm not going to upgrade them to Blu-ray, then there's no reason to keep them anymore. A lot of them I haven't watched in a long time because they're on DVD, and a lot of them just kind of taking space up on the shelf, So. But this first one was actually another Oscar winner. It's released in 1977. It's Annie Hall, starring Woody Allen, Diane Keaton. This is definitely one of his best movies. This one won the Oscar the same year that Star Wars was released. Obviously it's not as great as Star Wars is, but it's a great movie though. It's fun. It's really funny. It has Woody Allen had a lot of great movies in the late, throughout the 70s and into the early 80s, and off and on he's had some great movies, but I think this one's probably his best movie. This next one was actually released in 2004. It's a movie that's called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This is directed by Michel Gondry. It's starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. Love this movie. It has a lot of some stars are kind of future stars. Some like Elijah Wood was already a big star from Lord of the Rings trilogy, but it's got some great ones in here. And it's been a while since I'd seen it, since I had it on DVD, and so I just didn't really bother to watch it. But once I did, I remember how great this was. So this next movie is definitely nostalgia for me. A lot of people probably wouldn't like this, but it's released in 2006, and the movie is Beer Fest. This is it's from the Broken Lizard comedy troupe. I've loved a lot of the movies that they've done, like Club Dread, definitely a great movie. Super Troopers, those. And I know there's a movie called it's a Quasi right now on Hulu, and I watched the beginning of that movie, and that looked really bad, and I've heard some bad things about it, so that kind of scares me to watch that because I'm a big fan of these guys. I think there's 6 of them in the group, I think, or 5. There's 5 of them in the group, so I'm kind of scared to watch that, but. I definitely love the storyline of this. Just watching Donald Sutherland at the beginning of this movie definitely makes it worth watching. If you've ever seen that, it's nuts. Watching that to their grandfather. It's the whole reason why they go to Germany and do the beer fest thing. And so it's great comedy, but it's definitely a frat boy comedy for sure. So this next movie was released in 1998. I've already done a video on this one. And if you're not a fan of poker, like Texas Hold'em poker, that kind of stuff, you may not like this necessarily, but the movie is Rounders. It's directed by John Dahl. It's starring Matt Damon and Ed Norton. It has John Malkovich is in it. It's got a great cast. But in the mid 2000s, there was definitely a big boom of the popularity of poker at that time. This movie's definitely a big influence on that. So these last four are actually all Criterions. I've done a video on this. I think my last video was a Criterion video on all four of these, but this next one is released in 2000. It's directed by Steven Soderbergh, and the movie is Traffic. It has like a huge cast in it. Benicio del Toro won an Oscar for this, but it's got tons of stars in the movie. I think it's like 13 or 14 stars in it. So I'm definitely not gonna name them all this time, but it's this one I actually have not watched. I saw it I rented it in like 2001 and haven't seen it since then. I still haven't watched it, since I bought this used, through eBay. So I haven't watched it yet because I have so many movies on my list that I have to watch. But I'm definitely going to watch it, and I can't wait to though. So these last three movies I actually have watched all of them. This first one is released in 1989. The movie is For All Mankind. It's directed by Al Reinert, and I thought the movie was kind of a bit slow, and I think it's kind of hard to believe that this movie was released on 4K, just because it's taking a lot of like actual footage that that NASA had left over from astronauts on the Apollo missions. They took a lot of these videos and stuff, and he kind of pieced them all together into one video. But I think the one way to definitely watch this movie is with the commentary, because it's with Al Reinert and one of the Apollo astronauts both do the commentary on it. And to me, that's they give you a lot of insightful kind of information on it. And to me, it made it so much more interesting to watch it the second time and to hear the commentary, because a lot of it doesn't really have it doesn't have a ton of like dialogue in it. It's like actual dialogue between the astronauts and NASA, in Houston. So I thought the commentary made it so much better. So this next movie was released in 1987. The movie is Hollywood Shuffle. This is directed by Robert Townsend. He's the star of the movie and also the co-writer of it. It also has Keenan Ivory Wayans. He's also a co-writer. And I was right. Damon Wayans actually is in like 2 or 3 scenes in this movie, but both those guys were big in the movie, the TV show In Living Color. So it was fun to watch this. I didn't realize 36 years ago. I thought the movie was important back then, but yeah, I didn't realize how important it was. I think it changed a lot of things in Hollywood, kind of opened people's eyes to and kind of showed a different type, different actors and what other people had to offer to Hollywood. And finally, this last one was released in 1959, directed by Billy Wilder. It has Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and the movie is Some Like It Hot. This one was a lot of fun. I thought Marilyn Monroe was really great in this. She passed away like 3 years after this. So it's I definitely got this, and actually next month I actually have the next one in Billy Wilder's career. So just to kind of spoil that a little bit, I had to buy that one, starring Jack Lemmon. So you'll see that next month as well. But I don't know how many I'm going to have next month. Probably 7 or 8 maybe. But at some point I'm going to not be able to produce these every month. But definitely love collecting Criterions and love upgrading my DVDs. So definitely do that. But let me know in the comments. Do you own any of these 12 movies? Let me know the ones that you really like, the ones you don't like. Beer Fest might be that one for some people, but I think like I said, it's like frat boy humor. So please put a like on this video. Please consider subscribing, and have a good night. Thank you. Bye.